Hello, hello. Welcome everybody to the Truth Ruth Podcast. I'm your host, Ruth Anna Sontag, but all my friends, they call me Truth Ruth because I speak the truth. And you know what the truth does? It sets you free. Here on the podcast, we dive deep into topics around faith, fitness, business, and all things success. And we talk about the kind of truth that will transform your life if you let it. I like to bring on incredible guests who are living out their calling, breaking barriers, and making an impact. And together we uncover wisdom, we share powerful stories, and we do what we can to equip the next generation for success. And today we're going to get into it. I love to bring on entrepreneurs, faith leaders, experts, and game changers where we can dig deep into real success and what that looks like, what that is, where we can cut through the noise, debunk some of the misconceptions and the myths, and really get to the heart of what it takes to survive, not just survive, to thrive in today's world. And today I have an incredible guest for you. He is the founder of, get this, Kick-Ass Media. Woo! Kick-Ass Media, a premium display company in Canada that partners with global brands and marketing agencies. Their client list includes companies like Google, you ever heard of them? Disney, Netflix, LG Electronics, and many more. He is also a family man with 2 kids. He's a mindset coach, author of not one, but 2 books, and the creator of online programs for entrepreneurs and creators. And his story is really remarkable. We'll get to that here in a little bit. From sleeping in his car to on the verge of complete failure, Chris has built his business and life from bottom, like the rock bottom. He's built it all the way up. And today he leads international business, working alongside incredible teams to bring bold ideas to life and support clients around the world. Chris's journey is truly one of inspiration. He is a beacon for business owners navigating the inner and outer battles of being an entrepreneur. Please help me welcome to the Truth Ruth Podcast stage, Chris Crawford, everybody.
Yo, what's up, Ruthie? I feel like I need to come running onto the camera after that intro and that start. Hey, thank you. This I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. So Chris and I met back in Vegas around about 2 months ago, around the beginning of February.
Yep.
And we're in a mastermind together. And what really made us connect was we were in a celebration dinner and he left his remarkable notebook. You got it there?
Got it right here.
I saw it at the corner of my eye and I was like, hold on, that's somebody's, remarkable. That's someone's notepad. And so I grabbed it and, went through the whole like Nancy Drew, figuring out whose it is, who was at the table, who has this device. And then I held on to it for 2 or 3 weeks before I could ship it back to you.
Yeah.
But you got it.
I did.
You got it. And that was how we connected.
Yeah. I mean, that was, it's funny how those things happen. And that got us talking a little bit. And now here we are.
It's remarkable.
Thank you for sending my notes, years of notes in this thing. Thank you.
Oh, I understand. I feel like I'd be devastated if I lost my notes. My notebooks are so precious to me. They are like an extension of my body. So I'm with you. And it's like, it's a remarkable journey. I remember at the mastermind, you sharing a very powerful 3-minute speech about being unstoppable. And then even as I was introducing you and reading your bio, you really have a pretty, to really use the word again, remarkable story. Can you share with us a little bit of like where, tell us a little bit of the rock bottom story so that, I feel like that's always so inspirational for people to listen in on who are going through hard times and they feel like it's just them. Would you be open to sharing with us, what's that journey been like for you? What were those like rock bottom moments, and give us a little history about Chris?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so I've had this business. I've been an entrepreneur for 17 and a half years, and I feel like I have hit or skimmed the bottom a few times. We hit different levels. We attract different challenges to keep growing. And so, if you've got a listener, somebody out there, whether they're new or they've been at it for years and they're going through something, I think, well, we were talking about that right before we got on here. That is just the journey. In the beginning, I didn't know what I didn't know. I made the leap out of a career I'd been at for 7-8 years. I was miserable in, and it's one of those. Have you ever had a job that you love when you start, and then over time you get to this point where you're just like, oh, I can't keep doing this. I was afraid to leap. I was afraid to go, and it kind of wrestled with it in my soul a little bit. Finally made the jump, and I walked out the door. I remember my heart felt like it was glowing out of my chest. I felt like I had made the leap of a lifetime, and I knew I would never go back. But I had that illusion that so many of us have of like, I'm about to make money. I'm going to be free. I am. And I proceeded to not make a dollar for probably at least 6 months, and burn through my savings, and, get into debt, and just it got pretty bad. I had to move out of my apartment. But I couldn't go back. Sometimes you get on that path and it's tough, but the easy path almost seems worse. You know what I mean? So
yes.
I really felt that like it was the death sentence to go back to the job, and it was the haters. There were people there that would love to see me fail. Like I remember the people that were, oh, you'll be back. They thought I was, they thought I was so stupid, for lack of a better word, for leaving a comfortable job to go follow my heart. And it was tough. It was a real grind. What I learned over time was it was mostly, it was uncovering these fears, uncovering my fear of sales and rejection and being sleazy and annoying and things like that. We're not going to have a successful business if we're going to allow that stuff to dictate our future. Right. So I like working through that, and the breadcrumbs appear, right. And it just sort of, it was tough, but I'll give you one little turning point that I think was a big deal for me was, have you ever heard of that book, The 4-Hour Workweek, with Tim Ferriss?
Yeah.
I think that was the first audio book that I don't want to date myself too much here, but I'm talking at this point, maybe 2008, 2009. Facebook's barely anybody's on Facebook, right, at this time. And I had that book on audio, and I was really struggling. I just kept listening to it over and over and over. I must have listened to that book 100 times. And I'd never heard anything like that before. And so for anybody that doesn't know, in a one sentence nutshell, basically Tim Ferriss writes about build a business and more or less automate it, I guess you could say, so that you can go travel and live a life. Everybody on Instagram now tries to sell you this idea, but back then I'd never heard anything like that before. I grew up, single mom in her teens, small town. So
yeah.
But I think that listening to that book, I must have listened to it 100 times. And I think I just programmed my subconscious with that vision. And it just got to the point where that was all I saw. And my current life situation was irrelevant. It was like, this is where I'm going. I have zero doubt. I had complete faith and conviction. And I even spoke as if it was already done.
Wow. That's a process. That's a process.
So I'm lucky. Like I feel lucky to have stumbled into that at that time, because I really believe that there was something about that helped to transform my thinking and helped to give me that North Star. And gosh, Ruthie, I was from camping out. I was literally camping out, to having a little office and staff and making enough money to go traveling for 5-6 months at a time. It was like 3 years, like from one spot to it was so fast. And I have zero background in business. I don't know anything about marketing and sales. I didn't know anything about any of that stuff. So it was really fast. And I really, I do believe that a lot of it came from getting so clear on where I was
Mhm.
going and just that, driving towards that. And I think we hit our first $1 million in sales it was somewhere around 4 years from that point of what felt like rock bottom to me.
Wow. It's so interesting. I didn't know this about you, like, until just as you're sharing this. Like, I didn't know that about you. I have a very similar story. And I think I'm still in my 3-year window that has just felt like a lot of ebbs and flows and ups and downs. So I was a teacher for 8 years in the public school system.
Mm,
And it wasn't that I loathed or disliked my job. I just knew deep down on the inside, I am not going to retire here. This is not my end. This is just a part of my story. It's a part of my beginning. And as I found personal development, or personal development found me, I realized what I was learning in these events. I was like, why didn't we learn this in school? Why am I not teaching this
mm,
in school? And then I was like, I really want to be more in this personal development space of speaking or coaching. And that's where I feel like I, I had gotten a vision way outside the classroom. I had gotten a vision of what it looks like to take the skills that God has given me and serve people at a grander scale. And it was so interesting because I started having coworkers who I never had these conversations with say things to me like, "You don't belong here anymore." And it
mm,
wasn't like as a diss; it was more like confirmation from it was said interestingly, just kind of the way I received it, but they were like, "You don't belong here anymore. Like, you're bigger than this place. You're bigger than the classroom." And I was like, "Yeah." But I took the leap and I was excited and I had the same feelings of like, you know, let's go. I'm about to make so much money. I'm about to help people in so many profound ways. And I had no plan B. Zero. And I burned my boats. I burned them. I mean,
mm,
they were up in flames before I could even fully land after
mm,
I had taken that jump. And, you don't know what you don't know. That's
mm, mm,
who Jesus. That is probably one of the
mm,
scariest, realest, truest things we might even talk about today is you don't know what you don't know. And you get to some deep levels of who you really are, what you really believe. Where's your faith truly?
mm,
Where you learn some things about you and God when you take a leap like that. And it's just
mhm,
interesting. I'm right now in my 3 years out journey, a 3-year mark out from taking that leap. And man, there are moments where you're on that path and you're like, there is no going back. There,
mhm,
there is no going back. And sometimes going forward can feel foreign or hazy or like, I know I need to move forward, but man, where I'm at right now and where I'm going, it's not so clear.
mm,
What advice would you give to people who are in that spot, like who have taken the leap or they're considering it? They're considering taking the leap
mm,
or they have, and maybe they're at the part of that journey where, you know, they're close. They're close to their big breakthrough. They're close, but man, like it is tempting to give up.
mm,
But they also burn the boats. There's no going back. Like it's a tension.
mhm.
So, um, what advice would you give to somebody who's maybe in that spot?
The first thing I'd say is you're not alone. Um, and your heart feels something possible because it is. And
Ooh, that's
sometimes
good.
there's an inner conflict, right? There's like a part of us that feels this possibility of something great. Like we can feel that calling. And then a part of us that's like confused, afraid, and what are we doing? And I kind of think of those two parts kind of like this. One's the head and one's the heart.
Ooh,
And but which one is our mouth closer to?
your head.
Right. So those words can come out so much faster, right? But the voice of the heart is a little further from our ears. So sometimes it's a little harder to hear. Um,
Ah,
so I think what I'm really getting at, that my advice is you're not crazy. You're on the right path. And the breadcrumbs, the signs are there. The signs are there. But the leaps, you're gonna keep having the leaps. Like you're going to keep running into your fears. And the journey of building a business, becoming an entrepreneur I think it's one of the most spiritual journeys that you can ever embark on. because you are going to expose everything and just keep seeing the layers of yourself. And I think the biggest thing is you just said it so great. You trust, just have the trust and the faith.
Mhm.
Like, I think of it that whatever you believe, higher power guiding you, source, like showing things for you, the best way that you could show your faith is to trust that, right? Like, if we hold back and we don't trust to make that journey, like a bird jumping out of a nest, are we truly showing our faith?
Yeah.
And I think that we're rewarded when we do, that it's the letting go, the trust fall, right? That really shows it. And so I know I'm not giving necessarily advice, more that
Yeah.
I can't, I really don't, I don't like to tell people go do this thing, because everybody's path is so different. And maybe that is the thing to do, is to not listen to everybody else and every online guru and everybody that says this is the thing. Now, get around the right people and get around the right coaches for sure. But as far as your way of sharing your voice, your way of building your business, your way of getting leads or sales or whatever it is you do, like, you got to find the way that's right for you. And when it's right for you, you'll do it and you enjoy it. And I think of, like, I remember wanting to speak on stages and I decided I was going to do Toastmasters. And have you ever done anything like that, Ruthie?
I decided I wanted to speak on stages, but I've yet to do something like Toastmasters. I just, for me, I said a prayer. I said, I was at a personal development conference and I saw the lady speaking and I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, that's what I want to do when I grow up. How do I get there? And I had all these like crazy thoughts come into my head, like, you're not special enough, or you're a woman. And I was like, well, she's a woman. Anyways, but I had all these limiting beliefs. I felt like it was like the voice of the enemy being like, you'll never get there. And within a year or less, maybe 18 months, definitely less than 2 years. I don't have the exact timeline down. I was winning speaking competitions and speaking on stages and being invited to speak on stages. And, my name being one of the little blurbs on the event poster. And so, speaking though is a huge thing. And so anyways, you were in Toastmasters.
Yeah. So your heart knew, right?
Yeah.
Your heart just knew. So, and it was the same for me. I felt that too. And I had a similar thing. I saw, and I was like, I want to do that. But then I thought, I don't know how to do that. And then I found the Toastmasters.
I had no idea how to get there.
And Ruthie, I was so afraid to go. I drove by, I think 2 weeks in a row. They had a meeting every Thursday at 12 in the basement of this church. And I remember driving by and kind of being like, you know what? It's not the right week. I'm not ready.
It's not the right temperature outside.
Yeah, it's just something's not right. So I finally get the courage to go in, and I'm like, I'm going to hide in the back of the room. And they're so good. They know, there was this woman there, Peggy. Oh my gosh. She knew, right? And she came over and well, come on up and, and, oh, I'm just going to listen, like I'm going to hide back here. And well, they had a great way of coaxing me. Next thing you know, I was on stage at the thing. And the reason I was bringing it up though was I was so afraid, but my heart, it was calling to me, but at the same time, I was afraid of it.
Yeah.
And and then I kept going, and I started going week after week, and they give you a book, and there's 10 projects in the book. By the time I was done the book, the butterflies were flying in unison. And I'd found it, and I did the same thing. I went to some speaking competitions too. And so I share that to say that we want to find the things that we love to do, because if we don't love it, we're not going to do it. But simultaneously, we have to look for the things that we're called to, but we're afraid of, because we haven't found it yet. So so we don't want to follow every guru trying to say, hey, do this thing if it's not right for you. But there are things that are right for you that you gotta grow. You gotta shed some of that stuff to find a new layer in yourself. Does that make sense?
100%. Well, that speaking competition, like I've won only one of them, but I remember speaking at many events, and I was excited to speak at events. Like, I never met a mic I didn't like. I love speaking. I love inspiring people. I feel like that's what I am. I feel like I'm a voice of truth. And when I open my mouth, I share truth and it sets people free. It sets them on fire and it sets them loose. That's what I do. And so whether that's as a teacher, as a coach, as an advisor, as a consultant, as a friend, that's what I want to be. That's what I want to do. And I remember being invited to participate in this competition. It was called Master the Stage. And I was like, I'm good. Like, I got nothing to prove. I don't want to fly across the country to do this. I don't want to pay to have to do this. And I was like, I got nothing to prove. Like, I know I'm a good speaker. I got nothing to prove. And I remember it was like God knocking on my shoulder and being like, you're afraid to do it. And I was like, no, I'm not afraid. I just have nothing to prove. I'm not afraid. And God's like, well, if you don't want to, you must. And I was like, what? Like, I don't want to, though. Like, I don't want to do this. And so I was like, if I don't want to do it, though, then I must do it. Like, let me just press into this. And it was so funny. Can I share with you my secret to winning?
Oh, I'm leaning in.
Okay, lean in, boys and girls. Sharpen your pencils. Okay, so here's how I won. I remember I decided, we were on the like a Zoom call before where they share like the ground rules of the competition and kind of really get all the participants on the same page. And there were over 100 people in this competition. And I'm a little competitive. And I was like, if I'm going to do something, I want to win. And so I was like, well, there's 100 people here. So how do I engineer a win no matter what? That was my thought. How can I engineer a win no matter what? They're going to give us some rules of, if you have the most points or if you do all the right things that they're asking to do, then you win. And I was like, well, how do I win regardless of the situation? Which is part of even like how I like to live my life. How can I win regardless of outcomes, situations, people, inputs, variables? How can I win no matter what? How can I create a winning life no matter what? And so I'm sitting at this competition. I'm thinking about my skills. I'm pulling upon my speaking skills from being a teacher, from being a coach. I'm really listening to what it is that they want to hear from the speakers, like what's going to wow the judges. And I made these 3 rules for myself. I was like, here's how I win no matter what. I'm going to play full out. Not going to hold back. Number 2, I'm going to have fun. And number 3, I'm going to cheer everybody else on. Like I want them to win more than me. I'm gonna serve. I'm gonna celebrate people because it takes courage to get in front of folks and pick up a microphone and share something within a time frame and do certain things and like look at all the different cues. And that's a skill. It's a high level skill. And so I was like, I'm gonna play full out. I'm gonna have fun. And I'm gonna celebrate others. And in between, I was drinking lots of water, like just I think I was doing like 75 hard at the time. I just was like a gallon of water a day. And I was like always in the bathroom and always drinking water. And I made it also like a little challenge for myself every time I went to the bathroom to put my hands up and say, God, speak through me. You said that you would get me to a place of success. Like I'm not going to try and get myself there. You get me there. I'm just going to show up as a vessel free for you to use. Put me on like a glove. When I open my mouth, you will fill it. Have your way. And I would just like humble myself and pray in the bathroom and just ask for God to speak through me. And the last thing I noticed, this is like another like little winning tip that I noticed, is I had to find a hot button. I was like, what is my hot button? Because I want to evoke emotion. And, when you're speaking and you want to draw people in, you have to have like a common enemy. And someone go, if I have to have a common enemy, I need to talk about something that's very emotional, evoking, like something people can relate with, like where my pain and my story is our pain and our story. So I turn it from me to we, right? And I was like, okay, so how do I do this? And I was like, what's something that a lot of people have pain around that is part of my story? And I was like, school. There's a lot that's not taught. And I didn't have a speech prepared going to the speaking event. That was an extra challenge of like, let me be real, intentional, authentic, and in the moment. Like, let me not have a canned, prepared, rehearsed 3 minutes up, 3 minutes down talk. Let me write it while I'm there. And that was like an extra layer of challenge.
Mm.
And I remember like not having the talk and walking back and forth in the hotel room, up and down the hotel, um, hallway, trying to think like, what's my line? What's my hook? What's my story? What's my pain point? And anyways, to kind of bring it to a close, I landed on this line. And this to me was very controversial because I was a teacher. School gets a big fat F at preparing me for life. And I was like, how can I, share this in a way, because I was a teacher and I was like, oh man, I don't want to rag on teaching, but
Yeah.
and there are some real big deficits and deficiencies in the system. And so I was like, what's something we can all rally around? And I feel like there's a lot of skills. There's a lot that's not taught.
Mm.
And those are some of my tips for how I won a speaking competition. Out of 100 folks, I won, which is really cool. And I think that my secret to success was making rules so that I win no matter what. And, showing up, playing full out, having fun, serving others, going to the bathroom and humbling myself under the mighty hand of God, knowing at the right time, if I humble myself, he will exalt me. I'll have to exalt myself.
Mm.
God will exalt me in the proper time. And really finding a hot button that turns a me story into a we story. And I gave a call to action where I invited people to join my program called Success Club, where we solve that problem. We educate, equip, and empower kids to think, speak, and act like champions by teaching what school isn't teaching.
Mm.
And so that was a real defining moment for me, and even also helped me in my entrepreneurial journey to kick some things off and serve more people.
Can I point something out that I heard in that story?
Yeah, please.
Let me take the mic as the interviewer here for a second. There was such a key. That entire thing was so amazing. Like, that is so powerful. First, I just want to say, going in there with no speech prepared, like, come on. And just that trust. The one thing that jumped out at me was your question, how do I engineer success in this, right? Like, and I think a big thing that a lot of people miss is our brain is a question and answer tool. So the questions we ask ourselves, or we ask in general, ourself up or wherever, we get the answers to. So the quality of the question determines the quality of the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And a lot of people often they don't realize that they're focused on maybe what's wrong or what they're afraid of. Like, a lot of people might go get on stage and be thinking, how do I just not be nervous? Or how do I, not screw this up? Or how do I not fail? Or even, why did I do this in the first place? But your question was such a powerful one to guide your future.
Mm-hmm.
And that jumped out that for anybody listening, I really wanted to point it that, that's something we need to almost think about every single day. If whatever we're working on right now, how do I, and then say the thing we most want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes. And you're actually touching upon something that's really, I think, a core methodology for me that's been helping me in my coaching business, as well as helping to guide me as a person, not go to the deep, or not go to the scary, insecure places by this one thing. And I just call it answer the question. Sometimes we have questions, but we don't answer them. And I remember one time I was just sitting down, and I was actually having like a really, really hard day. I had the opportunity to be very scared and insecure and worried and anxious. And it was because of the thoughts I was allowing, the questions I was allowing to drive me, to control me. And I was like, you know what? Like, just for me, maybe it's part of the competitive nature. I don't ever want anything to master me. I will master it. I believe that you will either own something or it will own you. Like, you have a choice, slave or master. I choose to master. I'm going to master this versus it mastering me. That's my way of, maybe it's self-control. That's my way of winning in life, is I'm going to master the things so that they don't master me. And an example of this as a kid was, I have three brothers. I would never let them tell on me. I tell on myself. And it was my
Mm.
little way. It was my little way of having, maybe you could call it control or mastery, because I was like, I'm not going, this is my way of power. It's my way of having power. I'm gonna master this versus it mastering me. Remember, I was sitting down and I was like really just struggling with some difficult thoughts of like, and I noticed that the difficult thoughts were all questions. And God was like, answer the question. Just answer the question. Can you do this? I keep having this thought. Can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? Can you do this? Yes. Yes, I can do this. If it's so funny, Chris, sometimes
Yeah.
we'll allow those questions to literally just weigh us down,
Mhm.
burden us, bury us in insecurity, worry, overwhelm, anxiety. We have an unmanaged mind versus just answer the question.
Mhm.
Answer the question. Are you going to make it? I'm going to make it.
Mhm.
And I love what you said. And I think Tony Robbins says this, or somebody, one of the more well-known people of influence, said the quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions you ask yourself.
Mhm.
Ask yourself better
Mhm.
questions. And I
Yeah.
would add in, and answer them.
Mhm.
Answer the question.
And answer.
Answer the question.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And answer them even better than they are. Answer with even more than what is, right?
Yeah, the depth of your conviction.
Yeah.
Answer them from the future. I was this morning I was going through a study, and I made a little note in there about, I thought it might be fun to kind of, and this is real and fresh. Like, I don't have any bit of this planned, what I'm about to share, but I was thinking about like writing some kind of a book, or having some kind of a collective where we give advice to us 5 years ago. What would you say to you 5 years ago? And then I was thinking today, as I was looking back at my notes, what would you say to you 5 years from now? What would 5 years from now say to you? Like, in answering that question, answering the question from your highest self, from your most successful self. Like, what would you 5 years in the future say to you right now? And like just leaning into that wisdom. Or, or, what wisdom would you share with yourself 5 years ago that would have helped you get to where you are now? And
Mm.
just let you know it's going to be okay. You're going to make it.
Looking at the date, you know what was exactly 5 years ago?
What?
It was the beginning of COVID time. Like
Oh, it was.
literally
I just
that.
got chills. Woo.
And
Yeah.
you probably remember my story in Vegas that so we had business. I had a 5,000 square foot office space and giant print equipment. Like, I had a printer that was 20 some feet wide. We needed like a mini forklift thing to put rolls in it. And our business disappeared overnight. Like, it was wiped out. And then we started losing money. And I was in Panama at the time, and we couldn't get home. They closed the airport. So we were in Panama for 3 months at the beginning, at the very start of COVID.
Whoa, that's intense.
It was pretty wild, but it's funny. So I'm a big one on visualization. And I had been doing this vision of seeing this house on the water for a long time. And we were in Panama, we were at a resort, and then we went to a community, and then the airport closed, and we drove like 3-4 hours up the coast. Up the coast to this little cove, rented an Airbnb, and then met someone at a restaurant and was like, oh, I think there's a house up here that's, just the ping, 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 ping. And then we end up in this giant 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom house on the water that it was like what I had been visualizing. It was and we had a friend from Ohio that was with us, and my little one, she was gosh, how old was she then? 2 years old. Discovered we had another baby on the way while we were there. And while the world was going crazy, we were in paradise. We were in, and local farmers that would pull in the driveway, and we would buy the food right off the truck and the fish. And with the, pool table overlooking the waves, this little path. And the family that owned it, they were stuck in Australia because they were from Australia, and they were renting us this place for like $500 a month because they couldn't rent it out or anything. So they were just like, oh, if you could just stay there. And their dad was in a house nearby, and I just felt divinely guided to this place.
Wow.
Unbelievable. And my business crumbled overnight. So I was losing, I don't know, $10,000, $15,000 a month in overhead and costs. And so when you asked that question, I looked at that date. I was thinking, holy smokes, 5 years ago was I was right at the beginning of that time. And you know what I would say? I got distracted in a way over COVID, and I was focused on. I mean, I believe that everything serves us to where we are, but I definitely got distracted with things that were not in my highest good, and not necessarily like bad or anything. But like I was trying to rebuild the business, and then I had this vision, and in that time this is when I wrote one of my books. So this one's called Stop Procrastinating Your Purpose. And I wrote it in that time. But I didn't focus as much on the things that I was really passionate about as I could have. And I really, as we talk about, that would be my advice going back, was be clearer on the vision of what you really want. Because there was a chunk of time there that, yeah, it is what it is, but I could have better used the time. And while business was down, I mean, I had 2 years and I was trying to build other things, and I got the stock market, and I obsessed about trying to trade stocks options, and a lot of that. And I think this is an entrepreneurial thing. I just saw a quote on my phone this morning. It was something about focus it's not about saying yes, it's learning to say no. And there's a lot of distractions.
So good.
There's a lot of noise, and there's a lot of things that seem shiny, a lot of squirrels trying to grab our attention. But you go back to what you were just talking about, the how, like, in my business, it is so simple. We've done around 14 million in sales there. And it is the simplest business in the way that we generate sales. Like, we run ads, and we have a landing page, and we do a phone call, and we built this little funnel, these few steps, I don't know, 15 years ago, and it just runs. And one of the things that I see is people overcomplicate with too many distractions.
Yeah.
People like, I know that it feels like you need to be on every social media platform, and you need to do every single thing. And, you need one good one. If you're nailing, and it's so big thing I've been really sharing lately is you can get to multiple 6 figures a year with no technology, and you can get to 6 figures a month with minimal technology. And I think people often get confused in that trap. So anyway, that was what I'd say back to myself, but also something that I see a lot, where people they're overwhelmed, they're confused, they're stuck, and then they're trying to do stuff that's just not in alignment for them.
So good. And that really answers the question of like what keeps people going, is get clear, say no, get clear, say no, focus. Focus is but I always say focus creates fire. I have right here little magnifying glass, magnifying glass. And it's like the sunlight all by itself will not create a fire. If you focus the light, it will create a fire. And I love that. I literally bought this just for that reminder that focus creates fire. And what am I focusing on? Because whatever you focus on, you get more of. Whatever you focus on, you get more of. And I think that lends to the distractions as well. If you focus on distractions, you get more distracted, and you're just chasing too many things at one time. And it's not simple. It's complicated. And I just think that, like, simplicity is, man, there's just something that like washes over me when I just even say the word or think about it, but just
mm,
simplicity. And that's what I want. I want a simple life. Keep it simple. Just
mm,
there's a definition of the word elegance. I
mm.
love the definition of the word elegance. It's beauty, simplicity, and function. And I just want a
Yeah.
more elegant life,
Yeah.
where it's simple, it's beautiful, and it exists for function or beauty. That's it.
Mm.
Function or beauty. And like uh we're in a mastermind together, and I know that we were asked a question of I'm trying to think of what the question was, but we had to go Facebook Live and share. And I think it was, what car would you be if you were a
Oh
car?
yeah.
What car would you be? And I said I would be a BMW X6M Competition Edition, because it's where utility meets sex appeal. It's elegant to me, which is, I think it's just where function and beauty collide. That's where I want to live. And I
Mm.
love the idea of simplicity. And so
I love that.
that's what keeps people going too, is like clarity, focus, asking higher quality questions
Mm.
to
Mhm.
yourself, getting really, really clear.
Mhm.
Um, Not what everybody else is doing, what are you
Mm.
doing?
That's
And
right.
moving forward, I love that. Oh, there's so many like just truth bombs that you dropped throughout this whole conversation. And I want to ask you two questions.
Mm.
Um, One is, when we were in Vegas and you were sharing at the mastermind about being unstoppable, you give a very powerful 3-minute speech about being unstoppable. Um, what has helped you become unstoppable? And there's a comma to this. This is my first question. It's a comma. It's a two-parter. What's helped you become unstoppable, and what do you think would help those who are listening have the same success with becoming unstoppable?
Mm. Mhm. Um, so something that comes to mind is two different sources of motivation. So one could be desperation.
Hmm.
Like when we get in a desperate spot, we can get really motivated to do things we normally won't do, right?
Hmm.
You're back again with your back against the wall, we'll do a lot of things. The problem is that only takes us so far. So then the next source of motivation is inspiration. And so for me to and this is one of the things that I lost early on in my business. My back was so against the wall. I was camped out.
Yeah.
It was awful. And at that time, I had a lot of motivation from that. And then I lost it when I got comfortable, and I have no problem just sort of admitting and owning that, hitting a level where things were good, and then I was traveling, and then I was playing around, and it was cool. I spent a lot of time in Mexico surfing and whatever, but I lost the inspiration, the really like a big vision that excited me. So now when I talk about feeling unstoppable, I've got a few tools that I use. So one is every single morning, I spend time going into that vision. What is that?
Mm.
I imagine 3-5 years from now, what do I want life to be? I mean, you were saying it earlier. It was funny. You were talking about the question, right? 5 years from now. And so I sit and I make that moment vivid, like see it, I feel it, I hear it, like I create a moment. Who's there? What are we talking about? How do I feel? And a moment so real that it starts to change my body language. Like even just talking about it, I start to feel my body language change.
Yeah, no, you sit up a
So
little straighter, like
yeah, just like,
posture.
right, that excitement. So I think about that, and then I also tap into, I think of what is the most confident, unstoppable version of me. So if you imagine yourself, imagine a moment feeling so confident and unstoppable where your body language is tall and your shoulders are back and you're breathing deeper. And, as you hear those words, you might even start to notice your own body you start to feel it, right? And so we can access that. And I didn't know anything about any of this stuff years ago.
Me neither.
So I look at the future, I look at the resourceful state of mind I want to be in, and then I think about today. And so I've got that vision, I'm excited about that. And then I come and the way you were describing elegance and simplicity, oh my gosh, that was so perfect. I think about my day and what are the couple things I want to do? And then I just imagine myself doing it in that sort of like confident, unstoppable version. And when I started doing this, my productivity, like productivity doesn't even begin to describe the way that, I feel when I get in that state and I get work done through the day, and my results are just faster and things just work out more and the insights are better and I feel guided more, and it just, everything works in that place. So, I could, as you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about that.
I love
topic.
this.
That I think that, and you said we get what we focus on, like we get more of what we focus on. So all of that is just focus on where am I going? How am I going to feel? What am I doing today? Like boom, 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 boom. And I can tell you, I built that business, and I had a point, well, there was the COVID time, and actually right before COVID, I'd hired some management, and I don't want to go too deep into things that happened, but let's just say things were not above board and it cost me a lot of money, and there was a lot of stuff that was really sketchy. And so when COVID hit, I was already in this struggling place, and then it went deeper. And there was some stretches where emotionally, I had some really hard times. Like I had some, scarcity. I had a 2-year-old, I had another baby on the way. And it wasn't like, years before when it was just me and I could sleep in my car and, that's fine. It was a lot different now with a family. And that really pushed me to go deeper into using those tools every morning, because I could not face my day from a place of scarcity, from a place of fear, from a place of lack. Like I needed to be in a place of strength and confidence and trust and belief. And, here I am now and rebuilt, and things are unbelievable. I get to sit in an office and got a view of the water here. And, I'm really fortunate, but also it was like in those times of struggle, it was leaning into those tools,
That's
it was
so powerful.
Yeah. So that, yeah.
I just want to jump in. So I
Yeah.
just started something. Like I wasn't planning on talking about this at all. I didn't even know that you had this amazing morning practice. I just launched something called Miracle Morning. I just launched this like this week, like yesterday. I just launched. It's called Miracle Morning, and it's for an hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays. In the morning, we actually take time to sit down in the finished work, get really clear. What is it that I want? What is the calling? What is the focus? And we see it, hear it, feel it, taste it, touch it. Who's with me? We ask ourselves the questions and then we answer them, kind of bringing that full circle, and really getting clear, getting focused. And it really directs your yeses and your nos throughout the rest of the day. And I love what you said about bringing it back. So we place ourselves in the future, in the finished work, in the fullness of belief. We're practicing and embodying the beliefs that we are unstoppable, we are unshakable, and coming back to today. So how does that guide today? And it just brings so much clarity, simplicity, ease, and flow. I love that. I love that. I feel like we have to, man, we gotta like land this plane, but I don't want to get off. Like this is a good ride. This is good.
I know, it's been so good. So
This
good.
is so good. Well, I'm going to wrap up by asking you 2 questions in succession. My first question is, what does success mean to you?
It's a tough question. Let me just go silent and see what comes. It's doing the things that you want to do, doing the things that you want to do with the people you want to do it in the ways that you want to do it. I think that it's not, the money to me is a byproduct. Like money is a byproduct of good work, conquering demons, following your heart. So money is not a sign of success at all. When I see people with money that have accumulated wealth and done things, then if they've earned it, then to me, I often would look at someone like that and think, I know that they've done things. Like I know they've accomplished things. It's not the money. It's like, what have they done in their journey? So, success to me is that, and maybe how I'm showing up every day. With my little girls, they're 4 and 6 now. And, so I'm so thinking so much about parenting, guiding them, and yeah. So I don't know. I feel like I didn't answer that question very good because
I think that you did a great job. It's
yeah,
doing what you want to do, when you want to do it, with who you want to do it with.
yeah,
That's a very powerful answer, because a lot of us are pre-programmed to believe that success is something else, some other metric,
mm,
it's running somebody else's race and living someone else's dream versus living your own. So I
mm.
really feel like you nailed it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
So speaking of that, I have a program called Success Club,
Mm,
where even from what I shared earlier, um, I noticed that there was a lot of things that weren't taught to me as a student, and then as a teacher, there were a lot of things I feel like school was kind of missing it. There were so many things that weren't taught growing up, and so I started a program called Success Club to teach those things that aren't taught, to educate, equip, and empower the kids to think, speak, and act like champions. Sharing those leadership skills, the life skills, the things that you're not hearing in the classroom.
mm.
So my question would be, why do you think the world needs something like Success Club right now?
Oh man. Well, I don't fault school, because I think it's understanding what the goal of school actually was, right? I think that it's achieving what it was meant to achieve at a time, which was workers, not free thinkers, not people that are going to go and create great things and follow their hearts and live their dreams. So I think that the school, personally, my take on it, is that I just feel like it's an outdated system that was meant to do those things. And, now we're reaching a time, we see it, especially where people, we're just calling for more.
Yeah.
There's more, people feel more. We feel more potential. We want to make more change. We want to do things in our families, our communities, for our kids, for ourselves. We want to grow, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And I think that all of those things come by learning, by being in around the right people in the right environments and things like that. And the idea of that, even for my kids, I'm asking that question pretty much every day. I'm just, there's a part of me that's maybe afraid, right? Am I doing enough? Like, how do I guide this person? Like, how do I, put them in the right environment? So I think that it's crucial. And I didn't know anything about any of that years ago, like 20 years ago, growing up. School, definitely. It just was not, I came into school with low self-worth, and I've been bullied, and I didn't feel great about myself, and I felt picked on even by teachers, like made to feel less than because I wasn't the smartest in the class, and my energy level was so high I couldn't sit still on my desk, so I was labeled a bad kid. But then I go on to create things that beyond what a lot of those people had created, because I was in the wrong environment. I wasn't thriving in that environment. And bit of a long answer there, but I'm passionate about the kind of thing that you're doing. I just really believe that it's a big deal, and it's going to shape people's lives in the future. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, amen. I agree. I couldn't agree more. Teaching the concepts so that people are equipped to think and create and grow, offer more, and create a life that is by design, not by default, not what other system tells you have to be. And yeah, we'll have to part two this, because there's so many things that you said that I want to take it to the next level, but we got to wrap it up for today. So Chris,
Cool.
I just want to say thank you so much for being here. If folks want to get in contact with you, I'm going to go ahead and put his social media handles in the show notes, so you'll be able to connect with him. Guys, follow him. He's doing big things. He's changing the game. He's changing the game. And so, Chris, if we were just to share one last tip with our listeners or our viewers to add value to their life today, just something meaningful, what is it that you would want to leave them with?
Well, your miracle morning, I love hearing that you're doing that. And I would say that direction, something that's getting you out of here, into here. And, when you're in flow and you're not thinking and you're just in the moment, and sometimes you say and do things that you impress yourself. Like you're You know what I mean? You're just like, man, I'm good.
Yep.
We want to get as close to that as often as possible.
Yep.
And then we're tapping into our potential and our greatness.
Yep.
And that, that to me, like, I would say that's a holistic thing. I look at diet, exercise, sleep, like all of it. But that would be my thing is, finding the tools, finding the things to really do that. Your miracle morning that you've started sounds awesome. So that's it.
I love that. I love that one. Hey guys, if you want to come join me for a miracle morning, it is available for you to opt in, to jump into. If that's something you're interested, feel free to reach out and I will send you the details of how you can get involved. Thank you, Chris. Wow. So much value. You're incredible.
Thanks
You're
so
incredible.
much.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Truth Ruth podcast. We will please share in the comments what stood out to you, what value you got today. If there was a word, if there was a story, if there was something powerful that was shared. I know Chris and myself, we would really love to know what blessed you, and pray that you guys have an amazing day. And go be unstoppable. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.